So in today's talk, I'm planning on diving deep into it and swim through some of the advanced features and concepts that AngularJS provides. And this probably, you don't need to be an AngularJS guru or anybody. Just if you know some of the basic fundamentals of AngularJS or MVC framework, it probably would help. And there are also some general concepts that I try to throw out so that it might help you, in terms of JavaScript-based web development. So with that, I'm going inside. Let's begin. So CSP, Content Security Policy, right? So last time I did in my bullet points, I said CSP is one of the features that AngularJS provides right out of box. Okay. So anybody uses CSP in their web? Oh, cool. So what it is, right? So if you look at if you've been doing web development, you probably know the meaning of www is not really World Wide Web. It really truly means Wide West of content, right? So you have a page, and you don't know where that comes from. So it would come, you have a Google Plus button or tweet button or Facebook or like whatnot. So it comes from tons and tons of sources, right? You don't know where that comes from. There are a lot of redirects, iframes, and whatnot. So although the browser has its own security model and whatnot, it has a single origin, like SOP, all those sandbox security layer. If you want to add an extra layer, like CSP provides that, meaning you can control where your content comes from, how that can be evaluated, what kind of stuff you could do with that content. So that's basically a CSP. It's an extra layer of security that you can provide to your web app. And think of a banking app or financial app. So you do want to control it where your content comes from, right? So you can have all those inline scripting, inline styling. You want to turn off all those things. So that's what the CSP provides in general. Okay. And so content policy header is basically that. So it's a declarative-based setup which will control all that. So what Angular does is Angular has this directive called ngCSP. So it basically forbids all the eval functions and new function and all those inline scripting and whatever. So obviously there's a trade-off, right? So it has it's said it's approximately 30% slower, but you may need that trade-off for the kind of applications you're developing, right? And another place where it's been used a lot is if you've been doing Chrome extension development or Chrome package app and Firefox, so this would be a perfect choice because you do need that kind of sandbox layer because it works more like a native app. So it has all these access to file system and whatnot. So ngCSP or Angular CSP directly would give you all that you need right out of the box. Okay, so that's one of the areas that Angular has been used a lot. I have one extension already using it, and there are another one I'm working on, which is obviously I'm going to use that as well. And another last point I'd like to highlight it, and we're going to look at that a little more deeper. So if you've been doing MVC, whether it's Backbone, Ember, Angular, or any other templating framework, think of it, there are a lot of magic happens behind the scene, right? So you import a script and Mustache it, boom, you get something done. So do we know what happens behind the scene? Then you got to be cognizant of what it's doing under the cover. So for that, what CSP does, it does give you fine-grained control of what you can do when you have the magic box, right? So that CSP layer would give you that fine-grained control over. So I'm going to touch on that later specifically on the Mustache security aspect. So that basically an introduction of CSP. And if you have not been using CSP, I would recommend these links. So Myquest, he's a W3C guy, works at Google. He has written very excellent articles on how you can start up with CSP. And there are companies, I'm sure there are more companies than those who are using CSP already. If you're really,
Is the performance hit across the board, or is it only come up in certain situations?
It's, from an Angular standpoint, it's across the board, because what it does is I mean, if you, just an FYI, if you crack open, if you look at the AngularJS source code, ngCSP is a no-op. It doesn't really implement anything actually. So it does internally, it implements it internally within the parse and compile. So basically it's at the compile phase. So it goes deeper into all those, you know, individual substitutions. So it will be, in my point of view, it will be across the board, because it's at the low level. Right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so that's, just wanted to highlight those. And so can we use CSP? I think we can, because from this graph, I see it's pretty well supported. You know, I don't see why not. You know, if you're really interested in safeguarding your app, obviously we all have heard about Heartbleed, Blood Bash recently, right? So there are more security concerns like that, you know, cropping up. So I would say, you know, if you really want to protect your app, and it all depends on the domain also, right? So if you're really, you know, concerned about security of your app, I would be, you know, recommending you to seriously look into that. So, and with that, let's look at the, you know, quick, very basic demo of CSP, and then get into it. All right. So what I have is, okay, let me look at the code. It doesn't really show a whole lot. So if you look at the code,
hey Siddique, is CSP, is that an HTML5 feature?
No, it's a server-side header actually. CSP is not a client-side per se. It's more of a server-side security header. Okay. As far as I know, I don't think it would fit under HTML5 category. Okay. CSP 1.0 was the security header from the server side. CSP 1.1, which also added on the HTML meta tag. So I don't think it would come under HTML5, but I could be wrong on that. Yeah.
So I mean, like, so it looked like it was maybe triggered by a header.
Yeah, it is triggered by. Yeah, if you're going to look at
it makes the browser enter
exactly,
different mode.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a security header passed from the server side, and obviously we looked at the, you know, can I use chat? So some of those things, maybe it will come under HTML5, but I'm not too sure about that one. Okay. So bottom line is it's a header passed from the server to the client, and the browser knows how to, you know, how to handle that.
Okay.
So here I have, you know, can you see it? Okay. So what I have is a simple Angular code. So I have this script include and an ngCSP. So here, if you see this, I have an ng include. If you know, I mean, obviously, if you're used to Angular, you know it's importing it in a template, basically, right? So I'm running, this machine is both localhost and evil host, right? So I want to include a content from the evil host, right? So that's what we saw. If you look at the partial, let me come out of this one, so can you see all right in the back? Yeah. So this is my partial, okay? So this is basically running both as evil host and localhost. So if you look at my run task, so what I'm doing is I have a middleware, okay? So this middleware is basically going to return some of the headers, okay? So this is the header we are looking at. Content security policy is the header that we are seeing there. So what this says is, so I want the source to be self, meaning this is my HTML, all my source is just right here, okay? And by default, it will turn off all my inline scripting, inline styles and everything, okay? But I had to turn on for here just because I have this, you know, Express running, I had to have that index page and whatnot. So that just irrelevant of this particular use case, but I do need it for running the web server and all that. So here is where I'm saying that, you know, declaratively I'm saying I would be willing to accept only source from this evil host, nothing else. So I can take content source from this host, or I I can get content from the evil host. That's about it. If I look for anything else, then it's going to just bomb out, right? So let's go back here and then change this to evil host 1, okay? And then so it's not going to pull up. So it's going to say it's telling me that it's not part of the security. So this is a very basic example. There are a whole lot of control over CSP. I'm not going to go deeper into those because we have other concepts to look at. So I wanted to just put a dot on a CSP on your head so that you can think more in terms of how to write more safe and secure app. And ngCSP is a path that can lead you towards that goal, and then it has a lot more benefits when it comes to the privileged apps that I was talking about, whether Google Chrome extension, Firefox OS apps, and things like that. So that I wanted to stop right there on the ngCSP, but because we have other more things to look at, and there are some links and the references, and the one I showed up, they have excellent detail of how you can coarse grain some of those things. You could say my images can come only from these CDNs. My styles can come only from these CDNs. So you could go like too low level in terms of how you want to control.
Is the basic idea though is you're basically stopping injection
exactly
attacks in their tracks?
Clickjacking, cross-site scripting, all kinds of basically the data injection attacks and stuff. That's basically it. So that's where most of the problem is when it comes to web app, right? So most of the issues are with that. Like when you try to inject some code, inject some script where you have access to, where you get access to cookies and your local storage. We've been doing a lot on this. I mean, as the JavaScript MVC gets more powerful, we are trying to do a lot with that, right? I mean, obviously, doing a lot, you have the trade-off. You don't know where it's where it's poking into, things like that. So you do need to have this level of control over it. So content level control, that's what this provides. Okay. So and let's go back to. So it's a very basic example, but I just wanted to throw it to your mind so that you can start thinking about that. So this is what I was saying earlier. So there's this Mustache security. There is this project called Mustache security. I bumped into it, and what these guys do, these guys are saying that JavaScript MVC is becoming very popular, and you guys are just trusting a lot. Please don't trust it as is. Just try to look inside under the cover and see what it's doing. So what they did was they went through different frameworks, okay, and then they had certain level of security level, test cases, and see whether it passed that level of test cases, right? So they had given some kind of a pass file results towards that, and then so if you look at these, and so you would see 1.0.8 pretty much Angular 1.0.8 pretty much failed right the whole way, and then passed only one test case. Out of all these things, I would want to find out the last one, which is security app. So basically, what that means is, does this framework allow, does it encourage the CSP rule? So that to me is a big deal compared to a lot of others. So it really promotes you, think through that, through that level of control over it. So, and then I'll look at I'll kind of quickly highlight the test case, what they're trying to prove. But bottom line is they have this kind of, you could go each of these, if you can look at the wiki, they have their test cases written, they have their, they show how it's failed in certain cases, how it's passed in certain cases. And they have done a pretty good job on evaluating MVCs, not just Angular, of course, a lot of other ones. And finally, they kind of gave Angular a bigger one. Obviously, this is not this project is not from Google. This is some kind of a third-party guys who's been doing this. So I would encourage, if you're interested in CSP, I would encourage poking through this project to know more about how they have come up with these results. So I wanted to show this one quickly so that you know how vulnerable it could become. Like we have this Mustache. We've been using it a lot, whether it's Ember or Backbone or all the templating frameworks use of it. So what this one? Let's look at this. see what it does. So this is going to be the Angular 1.5. This is where they had a vulnerability. Okay, so let's go. Okay, let's show let me look at the code. Let me show the code right quick. So here it is. So what I'm doing here is I'm just including the 1.1.5 AngularJS, and then look at this one. I have this Mustache, so I could basically inline some script I want, and then boom, it just ran it. So even in an encoded form, you could really inject a JavaScript within your expression. So that's pretty bad. Like you could write anything you want to write right there. So that is a real serious stuff. So even then, I just don't know. Probably broke something. So oh, okay, I got it. Just because I have this thing on, let me turn it off for a while. So remember earlier I was showing you about the CSP. So the CSP is blocking me at this point because I haven't added that Angular CTN for this. So let me.
And so you can add as many domains as
Yeah, you could add. Yeah, there are a lot of. You could wildcard some stuff too, actually. Yeah. Let me turn off the middleware. Yeah, okay, there you go. So keeping just a note, so some of these, for some reason I noticed that Chrome caches the security header, so you do need to clear up that when you have the cache. I control Command Shift R will do it for me. So even if you run it in an encoded form, it's still. Yeah, so you see that, right? So even the Mustache is encoded, but still it runs your script. So this is a pretty serious stuff. So what they did was the Angular team really took it seriously, and then they fixed it in version 1.2.0. So let's go back. There you go. So they throw up this error. So obviously these are things that we know that's been handled. We don't know what else is, we don't know what we don't know, right, in security. So we don't know what else is out there. So bottom line is we do need to look in more seriously into those so that we cover the base. So that, I think, that kind of gave you some idea of what the vulnerabilities in terms of Mustache and stuff. So let's go to the next one, interpolation, right? So this is an interesting topic because a lot of times, a lot of people come back and ask me about what is interpolation. I have a hard time explaining to them because read through this definition. I got it from Wikipedia. So blah blah. I'm not going to read that. Then you know what that is. It's written there. It's just a fancy word to me, right? It's just too fancy for me to explain what interpolation. I don't know what. At least personally, I don't use that term a lot. Okay. And then if you look at this AngularJS document, compiles, blah, 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 why are we talking about these things? In a simpler term, what this means is, you could do a lot behind the scene. In a simpler term, if you had done AngularJS Hello World app, you know what this is. Basically, it's an evaluating an expression, Mustache syntax. That's about it, But unfortunately, they tried to define it in a more scientific term, and that's where AngularJS had this bad, repo in terms of, they're going by scientific terms, but it doesn't really, ring well with a lot of folks, right? I mean, that's why I wanted to throw out this, just think through it. It's not as hard as it sounds in the documentation, because it's nothing but evaluating an expression. That's about it. Obviously it compiles it to DOM, compiles it to function. Who cares all that? Bottom line, it's just evaluating an expression. So I wanted to show you a quick demo, and then you know what I'm trying to explain there. So, simple example, what I'm doing is, so let's look at the code, okay? So, alright, so what I'm doing here is nothing more than using a mustache within my style definition, right? So the interpolation happens. What happens here, when the AngularJS compiles your whole HTML, it just knows what to do when it encounters those curly braces. That's it. That's what interpolation is. Okay. I mean, I would call it evaluating an expression as in a simpler form, but unfortunately, I don't know why or how it happened, but in a more stricter Angular terminology, that line you see highlighted is an interpolation. Okay. So, and again, that it could go deeper. Here I just wanted to kind of highlight. You could also use it as a service interpolation. Like, you don't really need to use a curly brace thingy. So you could use that as a service and all that. So basically, bottom line is, in a simpler term, I could change this. I could, when I change this, when the model changes, it automatically knows what to substitute when it encounters the curly. Automatically, insert that into it. That's basically an evaluating an expression dynamically based on when it encounters the curly brace. So that's all. So, and then just wanted to give you a little more detail to it. That I did add a interpolate call here so that you know. So if you want to do it by yourself instead of AngularJS doing it for you, so you would use that $interpolate as a service to do that. Okay, and so that is the basic, very simple. Okay, if you wanna, yeah. So let's take it a little further, right? So if you want to look at a little more advanced usage of this, so there is this class, like provider class for interpolate, which is called interpolate provider. So basically what I'm trying to do here is, I'm trying to override, I don't want to use mustache for my interpolation. I want to use something else. So in this case, I'm going to use hash, right? Because a lot of times I've seen in places, some of the cases I've seen, not a lot, some of the cases I've seen, some of the use cases they want to separate the mustache for the server side, and then the client said they would want to use something else for that. So for whatever reason, so if you want to do such thing, you could do it like what I'm doing here. Like basically, you can override the curly brace with the symbol of your choice. So in this case, I'm using hash. So basically, my start symbol is hash, my end symbol is hash. So in here, the interpolation is going to happen for this, like hash, not for $. Okay, sorry, the curly brace mustache. So just wanted to kind of show, even not just for the model expression, also for the method call. So if you go look at that example, so here, so it just works just like curly brace mustache syntax. The only thing is it's working on hash rather than the curly brace. So, and again, this is the power of the AngularJS as well. So you know where exactly you want to poke, and you know exactly where you're not monkey patching anything here. You just know exactly the right class to use, and you just know what you need to override so that it will apply it when it goes, when you interpolate within those compiled DOM and all that. So so that's about interpolation. Let's go to the next topic. All right, transclusion. Okay. So this is one such thing where the basic concept, when it's not explained very well, will become more complex or advanced, right? So again, this is also a basic concept, like transclusion, right? So in a simpler English term, what it means is, it's nothing but embedding a piece of content into another content. That's about it. That's all what it means in a high level, what transclusion means. But again, the way, I don't know, is it easy? At least for me, I didn't catch what it means by reading that, the Angular DAO, because
it comes from the XML world.
Right. Exactly. So, and another piece of trivia there. Apparently, this is a newer term. Like I believe it was one source told me it was coined in 1960. Another source I saw was saying 1980s, but I'm not sure which is right. But it's a fairly new term. Okay. But again, to me at least, it sounded like, what does that mean? I sometimes I had a hard time explaining what it means, and unless if I show it in a simple code. Okay. So that's again, these are simple concepts, but which happen to be more hard to understand. So, but let's take a step back and try to explain it more in a simpler form. That's what I'm trying to do here. So, so here is a simple demo here. So let's go and see what we have. So here's the basic example. Okay. So what I'll do in this, let's go. Right. So in interpolation, if you know within Angular, so it applies to the directive. Okay. So when you have a directive, obviously directive like an element-based directive, if you want to include a certain piece of content from another, like typically an arbitrary content into it, so you are saying this is my point, marking point, and anything from there just include it into this document. That's basically what interpolation is. So if you look at this, so here's my template for the directive, a simple template, and what I'm doing is when I say in transclude here, this is my marking point. Okay, so anything that gets into this directive would be, which means just the things that you see here, which is enclosed by the directive, will be embedded into this point. That's basically it. That's what the ng transclude would do it for you. So a simple use case would be like something like I'm building a widget where I want to have a header, in this case a panel. I have a header and I want to add some kind of arbitrary, like simple content. So I would be able to do like this. I have a template, and then currently I'm using a Bootstrap framework, so you get all the styles and stuff. So whatever I pass in as a heading would be added into this, and whatever I have within the content, like which is enclosed by my directive, would be inserted at this point, which is where I marked it as an ng transclude. So just look at a simple header. So, and you see the style because it's coming from the Bootstrap framework, okay? And content. So this is content. So this is a simple use case. This is the most simplest way I could go when I try to explain it. So that's the transclude, right? So obviously, if you wanted to extend it, if you wanted to expand it a little further, I could do a little more a realistic use case, right? So a realistic use case would be something like this, right? A lot of times, I don't know the projects that you work, but the projects that I've been, the fact that if I have a style guide, it's always helpful for both the designers and the developers, right? So you have your styles importer, and then you have your widgets markup done. So you should be able to copy paste, and then boom, you have the same look and feel that you had given by your style guide. So this is a simplest typical use case for that. So what I do is I have I'm trying to build a style guide for the Bootstrap framework. So the way I did is so I have this again the same thing I did before. Let's see. So I have a panel header and then the body, and one difference there is I'm using something called SCE. SCE is another thing that you probably want to look at if you haven't looked at it before. SCE stands for Strict Contextual Escaping. So if you want to sanitize your HTML, like look for a cross-site script, if you want to strip out all your inline scripts and whatnot, or if you want to add some kind of a whitelisting URLs and stuff, it has much more control on terms of how it can work with it, like arbitrary HTML content. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm using the SCE to say I would be giving any HTML into this DOM, but trust me, because I'm explicitly saying that trust me this HTML. So which is in this use case, what I can do is let's go pull in the bootstrap. So for instance, I can just pull anything I want to pull, like. So I'll get that assets, okay? And let's just pull in maybe something else. Boom. So this is a use case that might be. So you could build a code playground. You could build style guide. You could build whatnot. So this would give those kind of flexibility. But again, from an Angular terminology, it sounds a lot harder to understand. But it has pretty wide use cases. So that's Transclusion.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around, like, how would this, could you do this using the SCE and escaping? Could you do this with just an NG model and a normal binary?
Yeah, exactly, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why, let me show the code one more time, and then you understand what I'm saying. So, as I said, the template for this, okay, my directive here is called preview, okay? Sorry to not showing all the code there, because I just wanted to cover a lot of things, and that's why I kind of running through the whole, FYI, it's all available on GitHub, so you could take a look at it in more detail. But just thanks for stopping me. So what I have is I built a directory called preview, right? You could style guide, name it whatever you want to name it, right? So this directive right there gets the template of, this is the template for the directive, right? So what I'm doing here, this is the key point. I want to transclude this directive, okay? And if I want to transclude it, I want to mark the transclude point, which is that ng-transclude, right? So this is where I can inject any arbitrary HTML content, right? So you would get the whole wrapper around it, which is your panel. It's a bootstrap classes, right? So you would get all those panel header, whatnot, and the body is that specific line 18. So any arbitrary HTML I put into that would be just compiled and boom, it just gets inserted. And keep in mind the difference between this sample, this example, and then the last example is the last example can take only HTML. Let me go back and show you what I mean. So
it's basically a higher order template. I mean, you're able to step up one level above the template, and you can.
Right, but also the difference, the biggest difference there is by default, Transclude would do only content, text content. Okay, so for instance, here, yeah, it's not gonna do an HTML. Transclusion, meaning it's just going to show you the content as text. Nothing, because we didn't explicitly say trust me this content, right? So which is what we were doing in the other example. So if you look at this one, yeah. So if you look at here, now I just gave you an example of, right? Could be anything, could be any arbitrary HTML. So that's the difference. So I was throwing out a use case there that you could use such a thing can be more powerful, like YC weak editor. I was talking to the other day, I was explaining to Mike. So I was able to build a YC weak editor in like 10 line of code. Basically, you type in any, you just saw me doing it right there, right? You type in any HTML, I want that, no iframe, no, no frame set, no nothing, right? It's just pure Angular, transclusion magic. But unfortunately, the word transclude throw me out. I don't know what that means. I'm trying, but it's hard for me to understand what that means by reading through the doc. But if you take a step back and looking from a more simplistic view, it's nothing but embedding a content, an arbitrary content from A to B.
Will CSP save you there too? Like you put in a script tag with
Exactly.
the stop?
Exactly. So that's why I want to throw in a CE there, so that if you want to sanitize these, like what kind of content you can allow. So you can say, hey, I want to whitelist only these URLs. Just don't take something that, let's say, if I want an image, if I throw in an image tag that comes from like some evilhost.com, don't trust this. Or you can explicitly say only trust these domains. So those are the power that you get by a CE. So you can really go fine-grained control over like how you can sanitize your arbitrary. Right. I mean, this is pretty powerful. It sounded, I was able to build a YC editor like in 15 lines of code. Like the simple transclusion magic. Okay. Any question on that? Okay. So let's move on to, let's see. All right. NG Touch. I don't know, anybody using NG Touch yet? Cool. Yeah. So good thing is it's an evolving API. It doesn't have a whole lot, It's based on jQuery mobile, and it does just 3 methods of this 3, swipe right, swipe left, and then clicks. So, but the reason I'm throwing out again here is there are a whole lot of enhancements coming up in Angular 2.0. Okay, I'll touch base on that a little later. But if you're really doing mobile first, mobile apps, I would recommend you looking into NG Touch, because you could really get a lot of use for it, because it's evolving. It's simple at this point, and you can just expand it as we go along. So I have some simple demo there. I just wanted to quickly show what it does. So what I'm doing here is, if you're familiar with Bootstrap, so Bootstrap comes as a JavaScript plugin called Carousel, right? So what I did in this example, I kind of extended that basic carousel feature with the swipe-based carousel, right? So I should be able to, instead of doing these, not instead, on not just the arrow-based navigation, I also want to do a swipe-based navigation. So which would be useful for me if I have a mobile app. So just quickly show up that. So here's my. So you could do basically swipe right, swipe left, and clicks. So it just it's just a simple feature. But again, like if you're doing mobile stuff, and you can make use of it. So let's look at the code real quick. Let's see. Yeah. So example is, so what I did, I just I'm using Bootstrap here, and then jQuery for my plugin, the Carousel plugin, and Angular, and you probably know Angular had this modularized, and like if you're using Touch, you need to import that module explicitly. Previously, I believe it was before 1.2, it was all in a single AngularJS file. But if you're using sanitize, if you want to use the routes, you do need to import that explicitly, and then you could import it into your module like this. So right here, I'm saying I want an NG Touch feature to this. So what I do is simple code, and doesn't do I have this carousel right here. So I want to do on my like here, right there. Let's see. So if you swipe left, what I want to do next slide. So it just calls this scope function next slide, and it's just basically calling that carousel of next call. So as simple as that. So, and then, and if you probably know if you're using Bootstrap, all the plugin initialization I'm doing through data attributes. So I'm not even calling that plugin method call. So just by saying this data write carousel, I already got the carousel feature initialized for me. You could do an explicit initialization if you want, but just for the sake of simplicity, what I did, I just initialized it using data attribute, and then I'm using ng-touch to add swipe-based method call for swipe left and swipe right. Okay, so that's basically for this ng-touch usage. So let's move on to the next one. Let's see what else. All right, here. Had anyone seen this before? I looked at it. Okay. Cool. So I have my Angular module called Angular Timer. So that's been using. I was using Angular, scope.apply a lot, and turns out I was doing the comparison, and I can show you the proof what difference it gets. So bottom line is, if you are using a directive, okay, and a directive is by default it's an isolated scope, right? So you probably want to have a scope.digest rather than scope.apply. I'll show you why, because there's a big difference in terms of what benefits you get in terms of performance, right?
Well,
so let's go.
Apply will start at digest.
I'm sorry?
Apply will start at digest.
Right, both that's the same thing. But the difference is, you can probably explain this, probably understand more when you see this example. But what I'm saying is, I have a nested scope, right? I have a parent, child, child, child. I have a directive in the middle, right? So within that directive, I need to trigger my dirty checking, scope, apply and whatnot. I would be, I don't care what the parent.
Within a link function, yeah, you definitely want to do that.
Exactly. So within this, I shouldn't be calling apply. I mean, a lot of times I made the mistake calling apply here, because what it does is it just runs through the whole scope, which is not what I need. I would need a digest within the directive, so that I don't care what my.
I don't think there is such a thing, no.
I'm sorry?
I think the digest applies throughout the entire.
Right, but
from node scope down to the
right,
lowest job.
but this digest, the digest call would be making only within that directive scope that I'm in. So let's look at the example. I think I probably can explain more. So let's see. So interesting. Okay, I'm using this Chrome extension called Batarang. I mean, if you're not using it, I would highly recommend using it also, because it will help you look at your performance and how your scopes are laid out and all those.
What's the name again?
I'm sorry?
What's the name again?
Batarang, B-A-T-A-R-A-N-G. Batarang.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it's it just gives you a console level info with what it does, what's happening within your Angular runtime and all those. So let's look at the code. Like, let's look at the code and come back here. Here, so I have a parent. I just am creating like 10 parents, I guess, and then within my parent, I'm just building some kind of a scope hierarchy. So I'm also building some children. So I'm just saying I'm parent this and parent child this. So inside, here's my directive called countdown. So what it does is it's just simple time off. Okay. So this is the first use case here. So what it does is it just starts the timer from countdown starting from 10 all the way to 0, right? So here's my HTML markup. So here I have an ng looping. So I'm going from parent that I created, like 10 parent, so it's going to show my parent name, and then I have a child. It's going to go through the hierarchy, and then here's my every child is going to have a countdown, right? And so with the first time, let's say here, I'm using $timeout. As you know, $timeout internally by default is going to call you $apply. Okay, scope.apply. And that's the difference between using this in the set timeout and $timeout. So let's see what the performance on this one. So if you look at it, I can rerun it again one more time. It's not going to take a lot. So countdown reaches, I didn't really set any random countdown, it's just a simple countdown from 10 to 0, just to be, always more expected. So you see, this is 621.9 millisecond, right? And then 997. And let's go and change this to, let's go here. So here, this is the use case I was talking about. So if for whatever reason I use set timeout, right? If I use set timeout, I have a choice. I can do $apply or $digest. All I'm saying is, in this specific scenario, I shouldn't be using $apply. I should be using $digest. So let's see what the performance looks like.
What if you already have a digest cycle?
I'm sorry?
What if you already have a digest cycle?
Like, how was it triggered?
No, I've had instances where I've tried to do a scope.apply and was already in a digest cycle. So there's such a thing called safe apply.
Exactly.
So you look at the root,
yes,
right, to see if it's in an apply state. So that's why I say that I think digest spans all the scopes. Because
right,
it really doesn't know, especially if scopes are prototypically inherited,
sure.
It really doesn't know if changing something on this scope, it doesn't mean also changing something on another scope.
You can explicitly call $digest on a certain
scope.
It's restricted.
Right.
So
you won't get a digest collection because I've run into that problem many times before where it already says I'm already in the middle of it.
yeah, I'm not saying that you won't sometimes still run into that problem, but you'd have the same problem if you were attempting to do an apply, which is a more general digest cycle. But if you're explicitly calling digest against just a single scope, then it's supposed to just be restricted there. So I don't think you've got any worse or better situation than what you're describing. You're just deliberately constraining yourself to a single scope.
Well, first, to be completely specific, it's the scope in children.
Right. Yeah.
It's not just that scope.
Yes. But it doesn't like walk up the
right.
scope.
Yes, exactly.
Will apply walk up the scope?
Yes, that's $apply. But if you read the $, I get confused a lot of times.
Apply has $root scope.
Root scope, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a root scope apply rather than.
There's already a digest cycle. Yeah.
Right. But what I'm saying is, and what he's saying is, scope.apply is actually starting at the root scope deliberately, so that you get all the changes you're talking about. But if you know you're specifically only caring about watching changes in this child scope,
I didn't know that. That's
yes.
no.
Right, yeah, that's exactly right. So when you use $apply, it's a root scope. But I would be saying that with a pinch of, grain of salt, because there's some doubt clarifies, maybe not. So I'm not 100%, but I think you are right. It is. To me, my experience has always been like it's running on the root scope. Okay, so when you say $apply, so that's why I said if you're in a directory, if you're in an isolated scope, if you really want the dirty check triggered only for that directive scope, you probably want to use $digest rather than the $apply. So as you see here, so what is it? We saw like 621 millisecond, cut down to 12 millisecond. And obviously, it gets more harder when you have more nested chain, right? This is just 2 levels of it, right? So that gives you a big difference. I had this module, Angular timer, I had been using like, 20 timers in different scopes, different levels of hierarchy, and then it was huge difference in terms of performance. So again, this is something I just if you want to look into. So again, most of the time within a directive, in an isolated scope, you probably want $digest than $time. Okay. And again, the other thing what I did was, and just to look at one more time, just what is the difference between $timeout setup? Nothing. If it's only thing is $timeout, does the dollar apply for you automatically? Whereas if you're using September, you're going to do. Let's look at the performance for this just to compare what we got before. Yeah, it's roughly around the same, like 621, so we saw 567. So it's basically no difference. Like if you're using $timeout, then set timeout. Okay. So then let's go back. Let's go to the next one. And here's another technique that I've been using. I don't know if you have done such a thing before, but if you try to debug some code in Angular, obviously Angular has this whole DI wrapper, DI engine. So a lot of times you wonder, how do I get this service? Is it a way I can just call this service explicitly on a console so that I can debug it, to see what's happening? And just a simple trick that I've been using. What you can do, you could just get that Angular injector. That's basically going and getting the DI directly, and then you can get their service class right there, and then you can call whatever you want to call within that service. So just a simple technique that I use, and it helps me a lot. So if you can also try that. And then obviously that's a debugging use case. I mean, more realistic use case would be, let's say if you have an external API, what are the API, and you somehow want that to work with Angular's DI. So you could use the same technique because you get the whole DI to you, right? So you want to poke through the module that you are interested in, want to bridge the Angular DIs within the API that you are developing, or the legacy API that you already have. So you could use the same technique. So let's see. All right, here meet Mr. Yeoman. Anybody using Yeoman? So yeah. Okay, cool. I'm sure you probably might be using Grunt or Bower, right? So, and if you've been using Grunt or Bower, I would sincerely recommend using Yeoman, or looking at Yeoman at least. So, Yeoman is it's a project scaffolder or product. It does just quick scaffolding. When I say scaffolding, meaning it's a code generator in a simple term, right? So if you want to set up an app, a lot of times you want, okay, I need to build my grunt file, right? I need to build these tasks. It's a mundane task, right? Okay, I need to have this in a grunt watch setup. I need to have the grunt connect setup. I need to have this, I need a jQuery, on my code. So I need to pull all those, and also I need to have some of shim libraries. So those are mundane tasks. You probably want to do some quick prototyping for something you're interested in, right? So I would say Yeoman does it for you. Very simple. I'm not going to run through those commands because you could find it quickly. I'll just give you maybe. So if you look in the Yeoman, basically. So all you do is npm install Yo. Okay. So and then what it does, you can install generator for anything. Okay. Meaning whatever the generator is available. So if you're doing Angular project, you would use something called generator Angular. Okay. And then what it does is if you want to scaffold or create a new app which is based on Angular, which is an Angular-based project, you would say Yo Angular, and then it'll install a bunch of. I'll show you what it'll do in a project that I've been working on, and that can help you understand. So it'll fill in a bunch of stuff, like the stuff you probably need for your Angular-based project, and then it does fill in all those. Let's look at here. This is another project. So I built this through Yeoman in 5 minutes, basically. I didn't have to create my grunt task from the hand-coded grunt task or copy paste from different sources. So this grunt file was built for me, by Yeoman. Okay, I had to make some minor adjustments here and there, but overall, it builds me everything that I needed. Like what is my watch should look like? What is my connect? Grunt connect for Express, and what are my JS and include and exclude patterns, and then what are the files that I need to copy? And more than anything, one thing I thought it was very useful for me is filling in all these shims for me, right? Like if you're using if you want to support legacy browsers and stuff, it added all the shims for me, so which is a lot useful because I need to go and find what they are, right? I mean, this evolved from best practices. These are the shims that has been working. So like whoever had written this generator, Yeoman generator, had already been tested. You can probably trust that and use it. That's it. And then an advanced use case would be you could build a generator for your own tech stack. Like let's say your tech stack is different from Angular. You wanted to get some Angular, maybe some prototype, or maybe some Mu tools, whatnot. So you want to have your own kind of generator, meaning these are my client libraries. This is how my copy of task should look like. So you could build your own, generator for your project. So that's Yeoman, and so here is AngularJS roadmap, and I don't know if I've seen any of those blog that came out probably a couple of weeks back, I think. So what the Angular 2.0 looks like. So it is targeted for the future browsers. Okay, that's for sure. And if you know this, that they've been developing on ECMAScript 6 from the ground up. They've been using Traceur, like which Mark wrote an article a little while ago. They've been using Traceur for that, backward compatible and whatnot. And another big thing is dirty checking on object.observe. Okay, that supposedly can give a huge performance boost, if and where available in terms of browsing. Okay, and another thing is DI. So they're trying to simplify the DI as much as possible. Okay, and that's going to give a whole lot a good rapport for Angular. And another, to me, my personal favorite is persistent support. Okay, meaning if you've been doing CouchDB type thingies, you don't need to do that anymore because they tried to use all the offline mode feature capability baked into Angular. Like if you want to do like using your what do you call it? Local storage plus IndexedDB plus. So all those things can be done with this persistent support. You could do syncing later on, through your pouch or whatever. You could. To me, it's a very powerful feature, persistent support. And then directives and templates. Like I said, directives are still I cannot explain very well. There are a lot more configs and stuff which I don't know that I'm not too clear, but because of its documentation, different types, different ways you could do certain things and whatnot. So those are going to be refined. They're trying to Angular team is trying to simplify better, And the other thing I talked about, touch animation. So they've been looking more into the touch usage of Angular for browsers and stuff, and more modularization, adding more instrumentation support so that you could calculate metrics and see how the performance looks like. And the router enhancement, if you've been using Angular router, so you probably know this. It's a very simple feature. Just you're given a path and you have the class or template. That's about it. It doesn't really do like a whole lot of things, and that's a lot of folks use a UI router than the Angular's inbuilt router. So, but they're trying to address that issue in terms of adding more features to the core Angular router. So that's the router. So these are the things that they're looking at. You don't know the timeline yet, but just keep in mind these are things coming up. If you're worried about, oh no, this is not doing it, so don't worry, it's going to come up. So that's basically it. And there are a few things I really wanted to address, but unfortunately I was out of country for 2 weeks, just got back last night. So technically I'm still in jet lag, so if I said something it still makes sense, just blame it on my jet lag, and I didn't say that. So the code is available on that repo, and if you have a question, throw it now, or create an issue, feel free. I'll try to respond to your questions.
Were you going to say something about Meetup plan?
Oh yeah, sure. So the Meetup, I'm thinking of, Mike and I talked about this, so I'm planning on starting a Meetup for AngularJS. Okay, so, and this is, the goal is not to fragment the JavaScript community, so Angular is so vast and comprehensive, and there are a lot of topics to explore, a lot of things to talk about. So, and I mean JavaScript, I know it's just that there are, we also want to give opportunity to other JavaScript topics, so which you don't want to, so the plan is I'm going to I'm starting up a new AngularJS Meetup group. Probably from next month on, you just watch out for an announcement. I haven't had time to plan out yet, so yep.
Take this in the spirit in which it is intended. It's a positive thing.
Sure.
St. Louis is rich with meetups.
Sure.
We have so many. The calendar is entirely full. There is an Angular meetup already, the Angular Lunch meetup.
Okay.
And my question for you was going to be, why aren't you coming to the meetup? Because it's awesome. This stuff would be great. We'd love to have you there.
Sure.
Now my question is, why are you starting another meetup instead of coming to the meetup?
Right. I looked at it. Is that a lunch meetup or a meetup?
It's during lunchtime.
Yeah. So I mean I wanted to come honestly like for that, but to me I had a problem coming out of getting the time between my work. If we can put it on like an evening time, I would love to combine that and not have another meetup.
Where is this lunch?
Oasis Digital does it. They host it.
So they're in the pair, right?
Right.
Who is it?
Oasis Digital.
Oasis. Yeah, it's 270 Manchester.
It's normally lunchtime the third Wednesday of each month. We're moving it next month because there's going to be a class during that time that I'll be teaching. So we're probably going to move it the week after. But normally it's the third Wednesday of each month. Anyway, I don't mean to...
Sure, I know. I mean,
part of the reason it was done at lunchtime was
right.
because the evenings are already so full.
Sure. I thought about it. I know there are like Vim. We have Meetup for Vim. We have Meetup for Angular and whatnot. I mean, for me, I mean, having a meetup within lunch is kind of hard, like getting the time out, and you're probably in a rush to go back to work. You wanted to fix something, whatnot. So if we can, I would love to maybe discuss more later on and see if we can just push it to like a regular meetup in the evening. But I haven't really thought about the day yet, so we need to. I haven't had a chance to coordinate those things. But again, this is tentative plan, So, and I would love to hear the feedback and whatnot to see what we can do about it. So, this is at this point a tentative plan. Like I said, Angular is so huge, and there is so much to explore, and so much to talk about. There is so many things which I wanted to cover in this topic, I couldn't do because there are things I wanted to just take. Just the DI alone, dependency injection alone, could do the whole hour of thing. So bottom line, so just watch out for it. And again, at this point, I tentatively, and I haven't had time to really plan out because I was away out of country. So that's basically it. Any questions? General topic related? Yeah.
I just wanted to throw out there that on Angular 2.0, the Durandal framework guy the other day announced that he's shutting down Durandal and joining the Angular 2.0 team, which I think sucks because I'm a Knockout.js fan, and Durandal was based on Knockout.js, but he wrote a big blog. I guess he's been working with the Angular team for like 2 months secretly, and he wrote a big blog post all about why he's doing it. And so,
okay, sure.
The risk of being the guy who keeps clarifying things, he's not shutting it down.
It's not.
No, it's going to continue to be maintained. And
But with Angular core?
no, he's good. He said that the project will continue to be maintained as it is at the 2.0, and you don't have to migrate. So I don't know that it's like eventually it seems like it will die, but everything dies eventually. So that's not.
Well, that's important. I can't say is like absorbing, but that he fully expects there will be things that he wants to do, that Durandal will do, that he's going to also keep them going. Like you said, it's not entirely clear exactly how that's going to work, but it's not as simple as he's shooting Durandal in the head and they're absorbing code. At NGConf this year, several members of the core Angular team in general said that they didn't want the world to be all about Angular all the time.
Yeah.
The DI thing, Vojta is working to make the DI component a component that you can actually say, I want dependency injection in my framework and I can use it to adopt this. Igor Miner talked about wanting people to start building directives so that they wrap functionality that can be used in Ember, can be used in Knockout, can be used in Angular, and not, everybody rebuilds the same thing over and over again from every different framework. So the core team at Google who's working on Angular is very much about playing nicely with everything else. So I'd be kind of surprised if they had said, oh yeah, come on in and we'll shut down Durandal, because they're much more like, let 1,000 flowers bloom. So that gives me hope for what they're doing.
Okay, so last thing, I would like to personally dedicate this talk to moms and all the moms out there, because my mom had a hepatectomy, basically removing left part of her liver completely. So I was with her going through the whole thing, and then I wanted to stay for more days, and then I just told her, you know what, I have something scheduled for April 17, I probably need to leave a couple of days earlier. And she said, with zero complaint, she said, do what you want to do. As simple as that. That's what mom does. That's what mom does. Like they do, they understand, they do what you like, So that's all. Thanks for coming. If you have any questions, feel free to get a GitHub or